Hey, Sean.
Hey there.
You have a fast receiver, Tutu Atwell. Is he living it up to your expectations? And how much do you like his enthusiasm for being a punt returner?
Yeah, he's done a good job so far, Claudia. You can see a lot of the things that we liked, looking at his film throughout the course of his career in Louisville. And he's come out here and he's done a good job trying to pick things up. There's a lot of information that we're throwing at him in a short amount of time, but can definitely feel that speed. We got a lot of guys that are potential candidates to be punt returners for us, and we've got a long time to be able to figure that out. But I've been pleased with Tutu so far for sure.
Omar.
Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
Hey, what's up, Sean? Good to see you in person out here at practice. First time in a long time.
See you too.
Hey, just curious, who has the steeper learning curve? Someone like Deshaun, who's familiar with your playbook, but might have to unlearn some things as you've changed it since 2016, or somebody like Stafford, who's coming in and learning it all new altogether?
It's an interesting perspective. I think really, Omar, for both of these guys, these are veteran players that in a lot of instances, you're running very similar concepts around the league. There might just be some subtle tweaks. Spending time with both of these guys, I think the quarterback naturally has so much more information that he's responsible for, but both these guys are players that have a tremendous amount of experience and success with that experience. So Deshaun's done a really good job. He's always been a really smart player. And fortunately, because of our pre-existing relationship, Omar, if we've changed the vernacular verbiage on something, you could say, hey, what you knew as NASCAR is now Spear, or whatever it might be. And he's so smart, he picks things up quickly, and Matthew's done an outstanding job. So a little bit different for each of them, but both of them have to learn stuff. But I think that's where you feel like their experience will allow them to learn quickly and translate to good play.
And the follow-up, Sean, would just be your impressions of Stafford here, the first week, seeing him throw the ball, and just all the, the arm talent and everything that you've heard about to see it up close and personal here.
What'd you think?
It looked good, man. There's some zip on that ball.
Yeah, it looked good. I'm right there with you. No, I think we're in the early phases of it, but certainly the way that he's handled things up to this point, been very pleased. It's a joy to be around every single day. The consistency that he comes into work with is definitely something that he makes it really fun. And I know been pleased with what he's done up to this point.
Cool. Thanks, Sean.
You got it.
Hey, Coach, it was talked about just having this sense of urgency. What have you seen out there this week that's giving you that impression and that you were pleased with as well?
Yeah, I think it's just guys having urgency from drill to drill. Because of the way that we're operating right now, Nick, a lot of that urgency is the way that we're communicating, the way that we're handling the mental elements of it in some of these jog through settings. And then when we do pick up the tempo, whether it be in a 7-on-7 or even in some of the individual drills, that's where you want to see guys learn the foundational principles, operate with the fundamentals and the techniques that we're asking. But I think there's just something that you can feel. It's not necessarily I can describe, but I think you could probably feel it from our guys out there when you're watching. I like the urgency that's set, from the jump from our veterans, and then the rookies just, hey, that's what the expectations are with how we do everything, and been pleased with this rookie group as well.
And how much does something like this help your team long term, especially with the restrictions that you guys faced last season because of the pandemic?
I think it helps, Nick, because ultimately it's about building the right foundations. And so much of this is from the mental approach, but even just learning the right fundamentals and the techniques, some of the things, how we want to hit blocks, how we want to take, get in and out of a stance. There's so many things that this game entails. And so you can build some of the right habits right now. You can, most importantly, I think, is just being around the guys. You realize, man, it's good to be back around these guys and be on the field. And it just is a quick reminder of why you love doing what you do and feel fortunate to work with such a great group of coaches and players. But it's been fun, Nick. I'm glad that we're able to get this work in.
Thanks, Coach.
You got it.
Maria.
Hey, Sean, obviously it's very early and you've only had a week or so, but you're seeing the rookies not on video, but in person. Who is standing out or who is exceeding expectations?
Yeah, I think it's so early, Maria. It's hard to point out anybody in particular. I think guys have done a nice job of quickly coming in, there's certain, the guys that are playing on the fronts, it's harder to get some physical evaluations of them. You can see some of these guys pop in the 7-on-7s, but I've just really been pleased with this class overall. You look at the attention to detail, some of the extra meetings that you're afforded with these rookies and the way that these guys are picking things up quickly. Been very pleased with them, but I think it's too early to really point out anybody in particular, and probably be better equipped to answer that at the end of the offseason, and even probably better off after training camp starts.
One more question about that, Sean. When you talk about the rookies and how, you need to they need to slow the game down for themselves, what can you sort of explain to them or try to help them understand that even at a time like this?
Yeah, I think it's about focusing on what are the things that are in alignment with doing your job at a high level, and it's even when you're listening to the play call, whether it's a defensive play call or an offensive play call, what do these things mean? But what's the important information that really tells you how to operate your job? And you want to kind of just keep building in bite-sized increments. But what I love about our coaches teaching progressions, Maria, is that, you're building the foundation. You don't want to just throw them out there. We don't expect them to know everything right now, but you do want to make sure that what they learn during these next couple weeks is building that right foundation so that when we do get to training camp, things pick up and the speed accelerates at a much faster pace with the amount of information and then just the way that we're practicing it in general. So I think it's really important to, mentally and focus on that kind of stuff foundationally the right way. And that's what our coaches are doing with these guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gary?
Hey, Sean. Noticed that today, anyway, guys like Aaron and Deshaun, Jalen, Higbee, Floyd were not out there. Have all of them been here at some point for workouts? And if so, or if not, what's kind of been your attitude in terms of those kinds of players being on hand for workouts?
Yeah, a lot of those guys that you just mentioned, Gary, have been here. It is voluntary. I think that's the first thing that's important. It's voluntary. I've really, really appreciated the consistent communication amongst those guys, whether it's Aaron, Floyd, you just look at, the Higbees of the world, a lot of those guys that you just mentioned, they've been leading the right way. They've all been able to kind of communicate where we understand exactly what's going on, but they've handled it the right way. It is a voluntary setting. And I've been very pleased with the work that we've been able to get done with the amount of guys that were out here today. And then what's been reflective of a normal attendance over the last couple of weeks.
And then, a couple players have talked about how Stafford has come in and almost, from the moment he arrived, has established himself as a leader. But from your perspective, what are you seeing? I mean, do you see the same thing, or how do you see that kind of evolving?
Yeah, I would say this, Gary. I think one of the unique things about Matthew, as you'll get to know when you get to know him, is he's just being himself. And he happens to have a great way. I saw Dan Orlovsky had a quote, and I thought it really epitomized what I've gotten to know over the last couple months, where he's got a great way about when he walks into a room, he's the man, but he can also be one of the guys, and he's got a great confidence, but a humility that comes with that. And he just has a good feel for people, and it's just who he is. And so I think when you're naturally in a position where you're kind of thrust into a leadership role with the amount of communication that position entails, he's one of those guys that he's just probably had a feel for it. And it's not something that he has to try to be anybody other than who he is and who he's probably always been his whole life.
And then finally, is there anything in particular you're hoping to achieve next week, when you guys go next week?
I would say, Gary, with what we're trying to get done, we just want to get all of our systems foundationally taught the right way. The physical work, when you can't really put the pads on, I think it's about building that foundation like I was talking to Maria about a little bit earlier. But I'd like to be able to, just continue to get some situational conversations, the red area, some of our priority third down coverages, calls, pressures, things that we're going to activate offensively. But mostly it's what we've done in the offseason where you're saying, all right, with Joe D in the kicking game, with Raheem and the defensive staff on the defensive side of the ball, and then with Kevin and the offensive coaches offensively, really just getting the foundation set the right way, making sure that we're giving clarity to our players. Because once we get back for training camp, as you start to look at these schedules and try to get practices situated and set up with other teams, it goes quickly. And so we want to take the next couple weeks to build the foundation the right way and try to give them a lot of information, and then we can hit the ground running physically and mentally when training camp starts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jordan.
Hey, Sean, have you guys found a dance partner yet for camp?
We have. We're going to get a chance to get some practices against the Raiders and the Cowboys. So that'll be good. Excited about that. And, we'll have those specific dates. But you guys know I'm always excited about trying to connect and really be able to connect with some of these teams. And I was really pleased that those guys were willing to do that.
And then I wanted to ask you about your offensive line, obviously moving Austin in there and getting not only a lot of the, I guess you could call them live, although nothing's really live, reps with the ones, as well as some of that pre-practice work in with Matthew over there today and probably the last couple of days. Why Austin, and what do you hope he will bring to your interior? And then does that signal any sort of maybe shift in how you guys are going to run the ball?
Yeah, I think we're continuing to evaluate, Jordan. I think the first thing when you just talk about Austin in particular, what was so impressive to me when you look at it from afar is here's a guy that comes in from Cleveland a couple years ago on short notice, ends up starting at left guard. Then you get a chance to get some experience there where he played really good football, got better as the 19th season progressed and as he got more experience under his belt. Then you come back last year and he plays really well at the right guard position. He had a lot of snaps that he played center in the preseason for Cleveland a couple years ago. And he's a guy that can play on the left or the right side. He's an extremely smart player. He's got a good feel for the game. So we're looking at that. We know that he can be an elite guard in this league. And so that center quarterback relationship is really important. And then you got Brian Allen, who started games. He feels like he's healthy. Really pleased with his progression. And Coleman Shelton is also another player that going back to last year, even he was playing really well in camp, kind of had a little ankle injury that set him back. So, those are three guys that we're looking at the center spot, but Austin is somebody that, we're excited about, just kind of seeing how he handles some of the things that, really require some extra communication, the above the neck, as you guys like to laugh at me when I say it, but he's done a good job with that.
And then Andrew looks like he's moving pretty good.
Andrew Whitworth?
Yeah.
It's the damnedest thing I've ever seen, isn't it, Jordan? I mean, and he had his sleeves rolled up today, looking like he just hit some curls. I said, it's unbelievable. You look good. I tell him all the time, he's like a fine wine. He gets better with age.
So you guys are feeling pretty good about him coming back from that knee. Obviously, he was able to get back in last year in the season, but in terms of back to 100%.
Feel good about that, Jordan. He's said that he's feeling really good. I mean, I think when you look at his ability to even come back and play after that injury and play at the level that he did against Seattle and Green Bay, it's incredible. It's a credit to really who he is. And he's been a core leader and a foundational guy that's been, building this thing the right way over the last handful of years. And we expect him to be able to do the same and kind of carry the torch up front for us.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Kevin.
Hi, Sean. If Corbett moves over, then is Bobby Evans first option at right guard?
Yeah, Bobby's done a really nice job, Kevin. He's played at a high level for us when he started at right tackle, when he started inside at guard. I think he's got a lot of stuff in his body. I think we emphasize competing and want to consistently try to establish, that competition up front. But when you say, all right, who's going to get a chance to take the first snap if you were to play a game right now and if Austin was inside? But Bobby is a guy that we do think has the ability to be a very good starting player for us. And he's shown that both at the tackle and the guard position.
So when a lot of fans and some of us were thinking they need to draft a center, you had the Austin Corbett move up your sleeve at that time. Is that our interpretation?
I was actually waiting for your next article to dictate what we should do at center. I'm just kidding, Kevin. Yes, we felt good about the possibility of that. And again, there's a lot of work to be done. But what I've continued to say, and I said this after the draft, I think people minimize the amount of experience we have in that room. even when you look at the 19 season, everybody thinks, oh, we got to have a big, ability to address the offensive line. There's nothing like experience and accumulating that experience with younger players that get better and better. And really, with the exception of Whitworth, and then you look at Havenstein, who still is a fairly younger player, we've got a lot of young guys that have accumulated a lot of experience over the last couple of years. And that's something that, if you're drafting, if you're developing the right way, but we've got, I mentioned Chandler Brewer, but I do feel good about the depth up front, even though we didn't add anybody that, makes us feel like, if we had maybe drafted one of those guys and we'd say, oh, they addressed the issues inside, but I think we feel good about where we're at right now, and it's a never-ending process.
And have there been any injuries? We saw Terrell Lewis on the sideline today. Anybody missing time?
No, there's the typical bumps and bruises, but nothing that would be significant to note, and feel good about where we're at health-wise as a team right now.
If I could have 3.5 questions. Anything decided on where you're going to do training camp?
Yeah, we will go to Irvine again. We're going to go back to Irvine this year. The specific dates, we'll have our, I'll tell you guys. I mean, I don't know exactly when we'll break camp, but we're going to report, we'll have our coaches, rookies, quarterbacks, July 25th. Our veterans will report July 27th. If I wasn't supposed to say it, then you should have told me otherwise, Artis.
Thank you, Sean and Artis.
All right, we got 2 last ones, Stu and Kurt.
Hey, Sean, just a follow-up on Bobby Evans. I think the initial eval, of course, correct me if I'm wrong, on him was maybe that he would be a good swing tackle. What was it that he showed you during cross-training, working with previously Coach Frommer and now obviously Coach Carberry, that you felt really comfortable about moving him inside and potentially playing him there at right guard?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it, Stu. I thought Coach Cromer's done a great job the last handful of years of really cross-training players. So you get a chance to evaluate. It's one thing if a guy comes in where he's a plug-and-play starter where, hey, Whitworth's playing the left tackle position, Rob Havenstein's playing the right tackle position. But a lot of these younger players kind of just trial by error, get a chance to evaluate them at the guard and the tackle spot. And, I think the overall athleticism that Bobby has enables him to be able to play outside with his length, his size, but then he's got the quickness when things happen a little bit faster on the interior parts of the line, and really smart player. He's got a great way about himself too. The game's not too big for him. He's got a great game day demeanor. If you guys watch when we make a big play, his energy is contagious. I like the look in his eye, and I like the way he's played in games that really matter. He's stepped up and answered the bell in a big way, and we're excited about Bobby's continued development, but that's really a result of Coach Cromer doing a great job of bouncing him around at the tackle and the guard spot, and then him, handling it on his own as well.
And then forgive me if you mostly addressed this when Jordan asked about it, but kind of the same question with Austin Corbett. What are some of the things that translate for him from guard to center? I know that I think he got a little bit of run at center when he was with the Browns and before he arrived here. What do you like in particular about his skill set there and sliding him over?
Yeah, I think, there's a projection element. He did take a handful of snaps at when he was playing at Cleveland, like 200 plus snaps in the preseason a couple years ago. He's a guy that started at left guard, at right guard. So, that, just being able to, seamlessly be able to, get in and out of his stance or some of those movements left and right. He's a really, really athletic player. He's got great strength. He can really come out of his hips. And he's really smart. I've been really impressed with his big picture understanding in the limited time that we've been able to go against a defense where you're having to physically identify, make calls, the communication, the understanding that center position requires. I think he and Matthew have established a nice rapport together. And I know that Austin can play really well at guard, and we're going to continue to see what it looks like at center and try to find the best combination of 5 to play up front for us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Wrap up with you, Kurt.
Hey, Coach, at the end of practice, Matthew Stafford had one of those plays where he's looking left and he hits Jefferson right. And we're like, okay, that looks mid-season form. But I'm curious, as much as you were communicating with him, is there anything he's struggling with this offense, or timing or adapting?
He's been a really quick study, Kurt. It is the early parts of the off season, and we're not really going too much full speed. We're not really going any full speed 11 on 11 right now, but I think it's like anything else. He's played 12 years. He's had a lot of different experiences, but it's getting comfortable with the verbiage, the vernacular, some of the things that we're doing in terms of, all right, communicating in the huddle, breaking the line of scrimmage, motions, tempo, all the different things. But the game makes sense to him, Kurt. Like you've heard me say before, been really pleased, but I know that the ownership that he really wants to have, he's going to continue to push himself, and it's our job. And I know Kevin and Zach will do a really good job of continuing to work and collaborate with Matthew to get him up to speed where, we say extension of the coaching staff, and Matthew and John Wolford will truly be that for us.
And that's my last thing is, speaking of extension of the coaching staff, Witt had posted on Instagram this week, he's doing one of these stair climbers like he'd never been hurt, like 100 miles an hour. How much do you use him to express to the rookies and the newcomers the culture?
Yeah, the easiest thing is watch these guys. When you see Aaron Donald, you see the Andrew Whitworths of the world, the guys that have done everything the right way, the Robert Woods, Cooper Kupps, Havensteins. You say, hey, this is what it looks like. And you guys will hear me say, I see better than I hear. And watching the way that they work is the most powerful thing. I think it's important for us to verbally and visually communicate the expectations, but there's nothing more powerful than watching the team leaders and the guys that are out there doing it, do it day in and day out. And that's why you see the veterans that have consistently produced at a high level, those habits are in alignment with what their production is when the lights come on. And Andrew is a great representation of that, Kurt.
Thank you, Sean.
You got it.
All right. Appreciate it, Coach.
Back to Zoom again. I just can't believe it. It is